Welcome back to a finals edition of the playoff series with me and Scalabrine. It is the national media's worst nightmare. It's two small market teams, but who cares? It's going to be an awesome basketball games. But before we get into it, let's talk a little about the Hawks and the Bucks. I'm not going to lie. I remember I had this dumb take last week when Trae Young didn't play that the Bucks are going to lose. I kind of had the same thought process in Game 6 before the game. I said if Trae Young plays, they're going to lose. But if the Hawks would lose. But if Trae Young did play, I thought the Bucks would win, and I feel really smart for saying that again.
Yeah, so you could tell Trae Young was bothered by that
Oh
ankle. He
yeah,
couldn't explode. He couldn't get by anybody. I mean, the real question coming out is like the Bucks play so much better basketball. Like I call it beautiful basketball, right? They rely less on the individual player and more on the team when Giannis isn't out there. Which that means going forward, can Giannis adapt to playing more of that style? And I think if he could, the Bucks become an unstoppable force. But this is going to be a really interesting series because of the Giannis injury.
yeah, too. And I think the biggest thing too is like in terms of the role players, the Bucks role players, not even just role players, like Middleton especially too. Like their confidence has to be an all-time high. Like there's a couple times in this, there was Game 5 and Game 6, there were these moments. Chris Middleton just remembered, oh, I might be the best player like on this entire court right now. I'm just gonna take over. And he had these moments like in Game 5, I think it was in the fourth quarter when he hit all those threes. That was probably the best basketball I've watched, and like maybe the biggest like, oh, I'm just gonna take over since Dame in the first round against
Sure.
the Nuggets in Game 5. Like it's just your jaw dropped. Like this dude can't miss. Like it was awesome. Like it was so much fun to watch.
And that all started with a defensive breakdown, and he got an easy, wide open three, and then it turned into that. So the question is just why do we see the Middleton and Holidays and the Lopez in the net series where they really struggle, and then we see them when they move the ball against Atlanta. Atlanta has good defensive players. Atlanta's a good defensive team. It's not the Nets are. I mean, they're fine. I think they're equal defensively when you look at both of those two. But I wasn't surprised that the Bucks got it going. I'm just surprised when the Bucks play so bad when Giannis is out there. I mean, and mostly offensively. It's just that's why I'm really curious to see how this finals thing. Like, can the Bucks steal one of two games in Phoenix? If they win Game 1, will Giannis play Game 2? There's a lot of question marks surrounding it, but I think the answers will present themselves after we watch Game 1.
Yeah, let's kind of get into Game 1 now. And that's something I was going to talk about too about when Giannis might come back. I mean, if you're the Bucks, I feel like you have to let them play out Game 1 to
For
see how it
sure,
goes. Like if it's a close game, they
for
lose.
sure.
I think you risk it again in Game 2 because the series technically doesn't really start until someone wins an away game. So I think maybe waiting until Game 3, let him get healthy. I mean, you saw what happened when Trey when he came back too early. I mean, he just wasn't the same player, and it was very limited. If you get Giannis out there and he's limited, I mean, if he can't drive to the basket, he's almost an offensive liability. And so that's something you don't want to get away with. And that's something I don't think they want to be in that situation. You need him to be as healthy as possible so he can do what he does really well. And speaking of the Suns, the thing that they've done all playoffs, and I think you can agree with this, is unlike the Bucks, they've been very consistent. Like you know what you're going to get out of them. You
For
don't
sure.
expect them to have these offensive duds. Like if Booker's out, campaign's like stepping up. And with Chris Paul, he keeps all these guys accountable. If Chris Paul's playing, DeAndre Ayton's going to get at least 20 points just off, and like 17 of them are going to be off lobs. It's just ridiculous. So I think that's the thing the Bucks are going to have the biggest problem is their consistency because it's just been killing them all playoffs.
Yeah, so they'll get a lead. I think the Bucks somewhat would take a lead. I agree with you. Like the steady Eddie of the Phoenix Suns, and they can go a lot of different directions. Like Mikal Bridges has won them quarters. Obviously, Devin Booker has won them games, and they can win games when Chris Paul plays well or plays bad. So it is going to be interesting how no matter what happens, the Suns are a consistent team, and it seems like no matter what happens, the Bucks are a roller coaster team. So it's just going to be a matter of like can the Suns sustain those big runs that the Bucks are going to make when they're driving the basketball because they're a force. Like PJ Tucker, you got Chris Middleton's a physical player for his size and what he could do on the perimeter. Obviously, Drew Holiday's a physical player. Portis is physical. Lopez not as physical for a big, and I think DeAndre Ayton is more physical, but they're just a bigger, stronger team. Can they impose their style of play? And can they nullify those dips where they take some of the worst shots ever and they jack up all these threes? So I am really curious. And by the way, the shocking thing about all this is the Phoenix Suns are heavy favorites in game one. And they're slight favorites in the
Yeah,
series.
I was
So
going to say,
I was worried. I was like, I thought it would be a little closer than that. You know what I mean?
yeah, I saw it was minus 190 to the Bucks at plus 165. Like that's, I think it's because Giannis is hurt. I think that's the biggest reason why it's so fluctuated. Because I thought if we went into the series and they're all healthy, it'd probably be honestly probably a coin flip. Just because, but actually no, I would say maybe Bucks would be favored just because health wise and talent wise, they are the better team. It's just they're such a roller coaster. You just
Sure.
don't know what you're going to get from them every single game. It's
Yeah. I
very
think,
frustrating as a fan.
but historically speaking, the Bucks are terrible in game one. Just terrible. Just like go back and look for the last 3 years and look at their game one performances. I mean, even the game. I mean, they were 25 points better than Miami in that series. Game one had to go into overtime, and they looked terrible in game one.
Oh
Got
yeah.
saved by Middleton. So I just think like with the Bucks, they're just a team that comes out slow for whatever reason, and they gain and they get better as the season goes along. They lost to Atlanta at home. They got smoked by the Nets. Like I look at this team and say they're not going to come out the gates. They're going to be a slow starting team, and then they'll get better as the series goes along. So I do have Phoenix winning today. The spread is 6.5. I don't know if they're going to cover the 6.5, but I do think the Suns will win this game.
I will see too. What I'm doing, my gambling in me, and this is my little not gambling advice. I'm taking the Suns first quarter because I think the Bucks are still kind of recovering from that last game. I think they're kind of on an emotional high, make the playoffs, and then just they've looked bad and they've looked bad every single game one. So I'm on the same page as you. I think if the Bucks are going to steal a game, it's going to be game two, and this is back when my dumb brain works. If Giannis plays, I think Suns win no matter what. But I think if he doesn't play, I think the Bucks have a better. I think the Suns have a better chance of winning.
So
Which is
you mean
so
game
I know
one
that
or
sounds weird
series? Game one or
for
series?
game two. For game two,
Okay,
not
so
for game one.
looking
Game one,
ahead.
we're on the same page.
Yeah, so the way I look at it is if they so let me ask you this question. If they win game one and they sit them for two, you think that do you think they'll lose the Bucks will lose game three when Giannis comes back? Do you think like that loss when Giannis comes back is gonna happen regardless?
I think that loss. No. I think they can win game two if Giannis doesn't play. Which is it sounds really weird saying that. I just think it's a situation where if they want to win the series, I think you just rest them until game three in Milwaukee. Where I
Got it.
think they're just gonna. I think they're gonna. I think game three, no matter what the lead is in the series, I think the Bucks are just gonna run through them because it's
Got
the
it.
first game in
I see where you're
Milwaukee and all
going there.
that.
You're
Yeah,
saying
and I
the
think
Giannis at home coming back from the injury. There's like the crowd, the momentum being in the NBA Finals. That's going to pull you through any adversity that you're facing with your knee being swollen or hurt or whatever it may be. I see where you're going with that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of where my brain's at with this whole thing. But let's kind of get into series predictions. I think it goes at least six. I think I don't know how you feel about it, but I think it goes six. Pending Giannis's health, I think if Giannis is out until game three, maybe game four. I really want to take the Bucks, but I think I have to say Suns in seven.
Suns in seven. I'm going Bucks in six. I don't think they win
Really?
one. Yeah, I think they win 4 or 5 after losing game one. And a
You
lot of
did?
people love the Suns. I think it's a Chris Paul factor. But I'm projecting what I saw against Atlanta. Giannis is going to fit into this team versus try to be the main guy. I think he could be a phenomenal superstar role player in a series like this. And guys like Holiday and Lopez and Middleton are all going to get open shots. And the Suns, they're a good defensive team, but I do think they could be susceptible to ball movement. And if Giannis comes back, doesn't force the issue, plays more within himself, I think the Bucks are an unstoppable offensive force. Lose one, win two, and then Giannis comes back 3, 4, win, lose 5, and win in game 6.
I like that. I just want a good series. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah,
I really don't care who wins because I like both. I like both franchises. You get Chris Paul gets the title, or you get Giannis gets his title and starts his kind of ascent and superstardom worldwide since he is an international guy, which is great for the league. Yeah, I mean, I think at this point in this series, like, there's not really. Well, Chris Paul again, people started to hate him again because he did some flopping stuff in Game 6, and I think a lot of people were upset about that.
Sure.
But I'm all for it. I'm all for Chris Paul being Chris Paul, just being a little egging on Patrick Beverly. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun series. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. And when are we doing this again? We're going to do this after game 2?
Yeah, let's do this Friday. So we'll have
Okay.
another. So with the finals, we're gonna have a really weird schedule. It's gonna be kind of after every 2 games. When
Okay.
we move to another city, we'll have another game, and probably when we get to Game 5, because I mean, there's no way we don't get to a Game 5. We'll probably do alternating before every game because the series
Perfect.
could be over at any moment. So
All right.
for that said, for me, for Scal, we're out. Peace.
See ya.